Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jacqueline Suowari. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. On this episode of Red Carpet, we have Nigerian artist Jacqueline Suowari, the second edition of the Basketball Africa League, and the Ghanaian artist hand-painted posters go global. Let's start the show. And we begin with some art news. With countless hours and thousands of ballpoint pen strokes, Nigerian artist Jacqueline Suowari creates intriguing pieces of art inspired by identity and subliminal human emotions. Jacqueline spoke to Red Carpet about her work and background. Let's take a look. Nigerian artist Jacqueline Suowari is a mixed media artist whose work continues to gain recognition in the art world. For the past decade, she has stunned her ardent collectors with magnetic pieces that have grown larger than life over time. She began creating art at the age of 5 and has been immersed in it ever since.
I started drawing since I was 5, but when I got into the university, because I knew that I wanted to study fine arts when I grew up. I just didn't know that it wasn't drawing that you would do when you go to study fine arts. You have to, drawing is like a means to something, it's like a sculpture on the way to happen or a painting on the way to happen. So when I got into the university, I noticed that it was even just a single course. Drawing was a single course, and then there were other courses I had to take, And so I specialized in painting. Drawing was not like an option for a major. But after I finished school, I wasn't happy. I found out, I'm doing what I want to do, but I'm not happy. And I had to start thinking about, what the course was and what was happening to me and my practice. And I realized that it was my art. I wasn't doing what I really loved. What I really loved to do was to draw. So I abandoned painting as I was taught, what I knew, and I went into drawing full-time.
In her work, she creates visual narratives that explores the themes of collective identity and social connectivity. As a high school student, she adopted the practice of using a ballpoint pen to create her unique style.
So back in high school, when I got bored in class, I used to scribble at the back of my notebooks with my pen. But then it was a blue pen. I used to just scribble and scribble and scribble away, especially in science class. And then by the time I got into the university, I found out that, the pen wasn't a traditional medium to draw with. So I had to throw that away and, go back to drawing with the pencil, charcoal pencils, pastels, and I pretty much followed the rules. When you're in art school, you follow the rules so you can pass. But when I finished school, there was this art exhibition that focused primarily on drawing, and I was really excited to participate in the exhibition. And I wanted to do something different because at this point I had been experimenting with charcoals, pastels, and then like different very higher grade of pencils, but I wasn't quite getting the satisfaction that I wanted from the drawings. So I just picked up my pen, a black pen this time, and I'm like, let me just give it a try and see what would come out of it. And it was amazing. It was like a light bulb moment for me.
Jacqueline has participated in several group and solo exhibitions locally and internationally and has been featured in several publications worldwide. And let's get into some sports. The second edition of the Basketball Africa League is kicking off in Dakar, Senegal. Are you ready for some hoops? Well, other cities this time around will host matches. They include Cairo in Egypt, Kigali, Rwanda. The BAL was launched by the NBA in partnership with the International Basketball Federation to replace the African Basketball League.
Zamalek of Egypt lifted the very first Basketball Africa League trophy at the Kigali Arena in 2021, bringing the continent one step closer to professionalizing its basketball league. The African Cup of Champions Clubs, the first inter-club basketball tournament, didn't come into being until the 1970s. although many popular African clubs date a long time. The 1980s saw an explosion of African talents in the NBA. Nigerian-born Hakeem Olajuwon shone in the heyday of the Houston Rockets, sharpening interest in African basketball players. And he wasn't the only one.
It's no surprise the Basketball Africa League has named two of its biggest awards after pioneering big men on the continent. The BAL's Most Valuable Player Award, named after Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon from Nigeria, and the BAL's Defensive Player of the Year Award, named in honor of Dikembe Mutombo, the Congolese giant. Probably the two best big men ever from Africa. They've inspired a lot of young African players.
In 2003, the NBA held the first Basketball Without Borders on the continent in Johannesburg, South Africa. In 2019, Senegal hosted the 17th edition. The program was established by the NBA in conjunction with FIBA to improve basketball skills for young African talents. NBA players coached them, and some, like Philadelphia star Joel Embiid, were discovered through the program. NBA Africa involves individual investors, including former President Barack Obama, former NBA star Dikembe Mutombo, originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Numerous Africans are now playing in the NBA and demonstrating an impressive level of success.
And in some more sports, this time where sports intersects with fashion, two of the world's biggest sporting events took place in February of this year. That's the National Football League, the NFL, held its Super Bowl in Los Angeles with the LA Rams beating the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20 in a thrilling match. February also brought us the NBA All-Stars, an exhibition game played in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, although these are primarily sporting events, they also provide a platform for African players to showcase their unique sense of style or culture. Bengals cornerback Nigerian-American Chidobe Awuzie led his team as they made their entrance to the SoFi Stadium, rocking his Ankara suit. At the NBA All-Stars game in Cleveland, Giannis Antetokounmpo represented Nigeria with his custom-made hoodie, which is part of his partnership with WhatsApp. African fashion, just like its music, continues to increase in its global visibility, in part because of such high-profile individuals embracing it and representing it at such important sporting events. The rise of the internet saw Ghana's independent cinemas fall into obscurity, but the country's tradition of vivid hand-painted movie posters has found a new audience among international art collectors. Reuters has more.
With a flick of his brush, Ghanaian artist Daniel Anum Jasper arms Paul Newman with a pair of revolvers. For 30 years, he's been hand-painting posters of some of the world's most famous movies on repurposed flour sacks, a tradition that began in Ghana in the late 1970s. Local cinemas then were flourishing, and artists competed over who could entice the largest audiences with their often gory, imaginative and eye-popping displays. But the rise of the internet condemned the West African country's cinemas to obscurity. Jasper, however, continues to paint for a new audience.
I'm interested, I can movie poster from Africa.
The international community has become interested in local, hand-painted posters from Africa. After people came and bought our old posters from us and introduced them to the international art world. They were fascinated by how we infuse our own imaginations into these posters. In those days, there were posters that would come with the movies, but we'd decide what to paint by watching the movies ourselves and selecting the scenes that we wanted to see.
Jasper's latest creation of 1969 classic Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was commissioned by a foreign collector who reached out over Instagram. International buyers see the posters as unique representations of a specific period in African art. Western action films were mainstays, as were those from China and Bollywood. Many posters include paranormal elements and gratuitous violence, even if the films had none. Physical features were often wildly exaggerated. Joseph Aduro Frimpong, a professor in pop culture anthropology at Ghana's Ashesi University, has been collecting the posters for years and owns several of Jasper's pieces. He says there is an aesthetic value to how crazy the posters are, but that they can also be used to have conversations with his students about the life of the nation.
To tell them that, look, when you encounter these art forms, for example, the posters, you shouldn't think about, what you are seeing now, but be able to link it to the history of, a facet of the history of this nation. And by doing that, we cultivate this interest to see some of these popular art forms as, symbols of history that can tell their own story.
Aduro Frimpong says the number operating in this genre has dwindled, and he believes upcoming artists need to be motivated to take up the tradition. He plans to display his posters at the Centre for African Popular Culture, which opens at his university later this year.
Fresh off the national team's victory in the Africa Cup of Nations, Senegal inaugurated a new 50,000-seat stadium at a ceremony attended by African and European heads of state and global sporting dignitaries.
The Turkish-built Abdoulaye Wade Stadium in Senegal's new showpiece city of Diamniadio is part of a drive by President Macky Sall to develop the West African country's infrastructure. The stadium, which will host the Summer Youth Olympics in 2026, was filled with fans waving Senegal's green, yellow, and red flag. In attendance were African soccer greats Didier Drogba and Samuel Eto'o. Also in attendance were the presidents of Liberia, Guinea-Bissau, Gambia, Rwanda, Turkey, and Germany, as well as Gianni Infantino, the president of World Soccer governing body FIFA.
We are proud to be able to be here with you today to inaugurate this magnificent stadium. It's the first time we are in this stadium. It's certainly not the last time. We are going to organize the best tournaments in the world here. This stadium is made for World Cups.
National pride is high after Senegal, led by Liverpool forward Sadio Mane, claimed their first Africa Cup of Nations title by defeating Egypt in the African Cup of Nations in Cameroon. The stadium, named after former President Abdoulaye Wade, whom Sall defeated in a bitterly contested 2012 election, is Senegal's latest high-profile infrastructure project.
With his kind approval, I decided to name the stadium after my predecessor, President Abdoulaye Wade. A homage to his multidimensional career as an intellectual, Pan-Africanist, politician, and former president of the Republic of Senegal.
A basketball arena across the street from the stadium was completed in 2018, and a $1.3 billion commuter railway was inaugurated in late 2021. Sall's opponents, however, have questioned whether these projects will benefit average citizens as much as they do Senegal's tiny elite.
And with that, we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank you for hanging out with me. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. For more entertainment news, remember to check us out at voanews.com. We are also on all social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube, where you can watch our videos. Until next time, goodbye, everyone.